semester here for a little over 3 years. Book conference here. All right, we will get started. It's a couple minutes after. Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to the Leveling Up Book Club. This is our third and final get-together for our book, The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferris. So thanks for stopping by. So let's get started. Few reminders before we get started. One, this is done every Friday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time, 1 p.m. Eastern. Have a copy of the book during the discussion. It's done live, just like this, every single Friday, same time. Thoughts and insights are encouraged. I don't want it to be me lecturing or Kris lecturing for an hour. The point is to talk to entrepreneurs, business owners about their thoughts and their insights for it. Show up and do the work. Make sure you read. It's manageable. We don't overdo it. It's 100 pages a week or so, give or take. No distractions. Turn your phone off. Pay attention and keep an open mind. There's some unique ideas in here, so just consider it. So it's different than the typical 9 to 5 is what he stresses, obviously. So just keep an open mind with everything. And as I mentioned, this is the book we're going to do, The 4-Hour Workweek, Escape the 9 to 5, Live Anywhere, Join the New Rich. And just a quick recap of what this book is about. It's how Tim went from $40,000 per year and 80 hours per week to $40,000 per month on 4 hours per week. So really making more and cutting out the fat with what you're doing. How to outsource your life to overseas VAs for $5 an hour to do whatever you need them to do. How blue chip escape artists travel the world without quitting their jobs. How to eliminate 50% of work in 2 days using some simple principles. And how to trade long haul career for short work weeks and frequent mini retirements. We'll talk about that a lot today. And again, it's about original thinking, living on your own terms. Typically, there's 2 options that people think they have: getting a job, working your ass off until you're 70, you retire, or working your ass off building a business and working 80 hours a week. There is a type C lifestyle, which suggests that the new rich aim for excitement and profit through their whole lives, having freedom and options to live like a millionaire, even without having $1 million in the bank, optimizing your life and getting the most out of your life, getting what you want. So we will be talking about step 4, which is liberation. And a good quote to start today would be, "It is far better for a man to go wrong in freedom than to go right in chains." So chapter 12, we'll get started on that first. And it's called A Disappearing Act. So being bound to one place is the new defining feature of the middle class. The new rich have more than cash. They have unrestricted mobility and freedom to do what they want to do, when they want to do it, how they want to do it. So he gives a couple examples in the book in chapter 12. He talks initially about someone named Dave who spends 30 days in China. He goes out there to actually meet his wife, to get married and to meet his new in-laws. And he's able to work a corporate job, but kind of manage it the best he can so he can do his job. And they didn't even know that he was gone for 30 days and he was on the other side of the world. He gives another example of a guy named Sherwood who went to Munich, Germany for a month, I believe, and kind of what his plan was, how he laid the groundwork, how he made it happen. And it's pretty cool. So he goes into detail how to talk to your boss, the timeline, how to make it more than like a pipe dream, to actually do it. And that goes into the hourglass approach. There's a couple steps to this that Tim goes over. One is to use a pre-planned project or emergency that requires you to take a week or two out of the office. It could be, any type of emergency, you're sick or you have a family event that comes up. Kind of use that as a catalyst to get started. Your boss isn't gonna say no to something like that if you have something that comes up. Let them know you recognize that you're not gonna stop working. You prefer to keep on working and not take vacation days. He recommends also to do this at a time where they need you. You don't want to just do it on a regular timeline. If there's a project coming up in a couple of weeks, they don't have a choice but to accept your offer. Then they're going to take your offer and say, okay, we'd rather have you working from home and try it out than not have you at all. So kind of have some leverage in that conversation. So propose how you can work remotely and offer to do it. Allow the boss to collaborate on how to do it so that he or she is invested in the process. Don't just come in and say, hey, these are my demands. I'm now going to be 5 days a week. Have a conversation with them, just like negotiating with anyone about anything. No one likes to be told, what to do. I mean, if you make it in their best interest to do it, and if you can make it think it's their idea to do it, then they're going to do it. So it's not just negotiating with anything. Make the 2 weeks off the most productive period you've had at work. So again, don't slack off. That's the biggest fear your boss has, is that you're going to take these 2 weeks and just hang out at home and drink beer and hang out and play basketball all day, whatever you do. But just make sure you're working hard at it. I mean, all the time, obviously, but especially when you start, because you're under the microscope at that point. For them. So make sure that you are being extra productive so they have no reason to, want you back in the office. And then not only work hard, but show quantifiable results. Something you can say, hey, remember the weeks I was here, this was X of what I did. I did double that. And here's the proof of what I've done. And again, just make them ultra productive. He does suggesting only 1 or 2 days per week in the office. A good suggestion that he had in this book was to do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at home. That way it's easier for you too, not to have a Monday or Friday where you could get sucked into weekend mode and potentially not be that productive. So to do those 3 days, and he also talks about Friday being kind of the best day to be in the office because it's the most laid back anyway. So kind of starting with that. And then he says, make those the least productive of the week. I don't think he's saying to not work hard or do a good job. I think he's just kind of emphasizing the days that you're at home to work extra hard to make it noticeable. And then at that point, if once you've done that for a while, suggest complete mobility. At that point, if you've proven to your boss, hey, I can work from home 2 days a week and then 3 days a week, and then, hey, I could do 5, I'm more profitable to the company anyways, eventually they'll go for it. And there's a little quote at the bottom, fishing is best where the fewest go, and the collective insecurity of the world makes it easy for people to hit home runs while everyone is aiming for base hits. So it's just saying to aim high in anything in life, but with this too, I mean, don't be like everyone else. I don't think anyone in this group really is. Most of us are entrepreneurs or successful business people, but to actually go for something big because you're likely to get it, or at least get something better than not asking 100%. Does anyone have any thoughts about this slide, about the Disappearing Act that he goes over in this? Ooh, let me go back.
Has anyone done the Disappearing Act in this group?
No, I just quit my job.
That sounds pretty disappearing.
I was mentioning that this tactic has got to be super easy to do in the pandemic. I mean, most businesses want you to work from home anyways. So if you can show massive value and be very productive away from the office, when it's time to go back, you may not have to.
Yeah, I mean, I've been working from home. I work for a tech company called GoDaddy, but we've been working from home. And then I asked my boss, I'm like, "Yeah, look, do I need to be in Arizona? Can I start traveling around?" And he was like, "Yeah, can I come visit?" So, I mean, it does, seem to work, but I think they're a lot more open-minded for it now than ever.
Also, I think that being entrepreneurs, I think a lot of us may have blown this off because we don't think that we have a boss, but we do have a boss, right? You're your own boss. So are you going to allow yourself to work remotely? What I think would be a good question. When my kids' school, they said, we're online now, and that we're going to be online at least till October, and I think we're going to be online all semester. So just like my work, if my business is in Cleveland and I live in Phoenix, then I can live anywhere, basically, right? So if my kids' school is online and if my business is online, we want to maybe hit Costa Rica for a month, or Barbados or something like that, just get a new change of scenery. If you have to do this anyways, might as well do it from somewhere amazing.
Right. Yeah. I even saw one of my friends, her daughters in kindergarten, and they're doing school remotely in kindergarten, which just kind of blows my mind. I mean, it doesn't blow my mind, but I'm like, that seems like super young. I'm kind of curious what the younger, generations are going to turn out to be like. But yeah, it definitely opens up a good opportunity to go travel around and be productive,
For sure.
For sure.
Definitely let me double down on seeing what systems I had in place that were good and ones that weren't and that failed me, or how I failed myself in my business the last probably 2 months. It really lets you know, going over this chapter, you can really see some of the things that you didn't think about that you could automate, or double checking on where you can save money on other different systems to be more proficient.
If it's okay to ask, what kind of businesses do you guys run?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're here to talk about it. So I am a real estate agent in Cleveland, Ohio. What about yourself?
Well, I do a few things. I mean, I do work for a tech company, but our motive is like empowering entrepreneurs, which I'm pretty much like a consultant on that, anything business related. But oddly enough, I have a twin brother that used to work for Flip This House. So if you do real estate, we can talk offline. But there's a few things I'm working on with that called PropStream. It's kind of like a software that is like the MLS but on steroids. And then I have a taco review website as well as a pizza review website that just is intended to get free tacos and pizza.
It's a cool website.
Yeah.
Jason, I love it, man. It looks cool, all your posts about it.
Yeah, tacosaremylife.com and then cowabunga.pizza. But no, yeah, those are kind of like just more or less related to talk to people, but that's kind of what I've been working on. And then a website called master.cooking. And then I just got one I'm trying to work on called modification.loan. So for modifications on people's like mortgage loans. So
Awesome. Anybody else want to share what their business is and what they do?
We are out of Phoenix, Arizona. I run a real estate development company out of Phoenix, Arizona, and we own a lot of rental properties in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah, I'm a nationwide wholesaler and do help people do creative financing and different deals, newer investors.
Perfect.
it's what, like 4 out of 4 people do real estate in here. Nice.
Pretty much.
Nice. Have you guys heard of well, I guess we could talk more offline about this, but have you guys heard of PropStream at all?
I've
heard of it. I have not used it though.
Oh man,
yeah, we use PropStream.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool tool.
Yeah, I'll talk to you later about that, Jason. That sounds interesting.
Sure.
All right, cool. So let's move on to the next slide to talk about chapter 13. When you're job or your business is beyond repair. So pride is stupid. Being able to quit things that don't work is an integral part of being a winner. The average man is a conformist, accepting miseries and disasters when the stoicism of a cow standing in the rain. That's an interesting quote. So they kind of talk about 4 big common misconceptions people have, and kind of talk you down from those because they're kind of BS. One is quitting is permanent. Obviously, it's not. People think that in their mind that, hey, once I quit, I'm not going to get another job, or I can't start a business. It's too much. It's too hard. You can always find a new job doing something. You know, if you never try, then you can't do anything. But if you're like anyone, if you can work hard, you can find work anywhere, doing anything you want. So it's definitely not permanent. I won't be able to pay the bills. You can always pick a chosen career track, start another company. Obviously, he doesn't recommend just going and quitting without a plan. If you have, you know, huge bills, it may be hard for you, but if you plan ahead and you can cut things back, sell things you don't need, maybe downsize your living situation. You know, if you have a nice car, you know, maybe get a simple car. You know, if you have insurance that you don't need, you can kind of downgrade that. But definitely just downsizing your life before, so it is manageable for you. Number 3, health insurance and retirement accounts disappear if I quit. That's not true. I thought that for a long time. And about a year ago, I was working in corporate America for a long time, for 8 years. And I just was fed up and I quit. And I was like, oh, I don't have insurance. I am screwed. But I got insurance really easily and really quickly. It didn't cost me very much. So it's something that people always told me, like, if you quit, you're not going to have insurance and you're going to be in trouble. Well, no, I was able to really get that taken care of in a couple of weeks. And I think I spent $300 a month on health insurance. And my retirement, I rolled everything over, all my 401ks, IRAs. So it's actually easier for me to manage now rather than being in a corporate 401k that I can't touch or manage. Now I have a financial advisor that I call and I ask questions and I can do things. So actually that went better after I left my job. And my resume will be ruined. I definitely disagree with that. I mean, if you sit around, if you quit your job because you want to drink alcohol a day and just do nothing with your time, yeah, your resume is going to look like garbage. But if you're doing something and you can explain it to, you know, if you're interviewing for something else in the future, hey, you know, I quit because I had a dream that I wanted to start a race car company, or, you know, I really had this itch. I wanted to go travel South America and learn Spanish. No one's going to not hire you because of that. If anything, they're going to be like, wow, this person has some guts. They did like something I never had the courage to do. I want to talk more about it. Let's ask questions like, hey, you did that. I want to hear more. Like, what's your mindset? People like people that take risks, and definitely will not ruin your resume. I think the contrary. I think if you start a business and you fail, or you try something different and then you go back, you'll have learned many more skills, for one, and you'll have shown that you are a leader and you can manage people potentially, and just it takes a lot to do it. So I think it actually is a huge boost to your resume by taking that risk to do that. Anybody have any thoughts on this slide?
Well, I mean, I feel like it's definitely easier said than done, but I feel like once you make that leap, you know, it kind of opens your eyes a little bit, if that makes sense.
Totally. It is a leap. I mean, it definitely is. It can be scary when you quit your job, but it has to be done. If you're doing something like the quote at the top says, "Pride's stupid." Just because I made a decision to do this when I was 22, hey, I know a lot more than when I finished college. Like, I don't need to keep on going on this path because I thought that's what I wanted when I was young, much younger and not as wise as I am now. So just with anything, like, you should be able to change course and not feel like I have to do this because I decided this 10 years ago and it doesn't matter if I don't like it. Like, you have to be able to course correct and move on.
Yeah, I mean, so I kind of have so when I worked at a pharmacy for 10 years. I wanted to be a pharmacist, and I was 18, and then all of a sudden I started working at a pharmacy, got my tech degree, worked at an automated pharmacy called 𝐋𝐄𝐕𝐄𝐋𝐈𝐍𝐆, and I realized like being a pharmacist was so boring, but I still got into the tech side of stuff there, like taking apart robots. So I was flying across the world for the super pharmacy, setting up shop. And I mean, I wasn't technically a pharmacist. I was like a pharmacy tech, and it was just ridiculous. And 10 years into it, I mean, I was growing weed. I was doing cannabis stuff, like, cause I went into that, industry thinking that was what pharmacists did. Like, and it wasn't. It was so corporate America. And after a while, I was like, I gotta get out of this. This is just horrible. And so I quit. And it was one of those things where I quit and I went to go be a recruiter for hardware and software engineers. And it was like, so it was a leap, it was definitely like going to work for yourself in a way. I mean, kind of were just recruiting people that had to have a relationship with you. And then after I did that, I quit that job too. And I was like, fuck this. I'm just going to go figure out how to be an engineer for myself. And it was like I was getting recruited. Like, I still am getting hit up from like people on LinkedIn to go work for pharmacies, to go work for this and that. And I got my pharmacy license revoked. It's just, I mean, I took a huge leap, and it definitely left a bad mark on maybe my resume. But it was also leaving a really good remark on my resume too, because it was kind of like one of those things that as soon as I left something that I was a part of, I realized how many other people wanted me to be a part of what they were doing. You know what I mean? So I knew I had a lot to offer, but it's like, you don't really realize that until you actually do take that leap. You know what I mean? So.
Well, I think if you can explain like what you did and why you did it, just like you did to us right now, to any potential employer or, business partner, they'll understand it. If you just quit and you have no reason, like you can't explain why you quit or what you're doing, like, yeah, they're going to think that's kind of weird, but like you did something that makes sense and you can articulate it. Most people are going to think that's a good thing, in my opinion.
And I mean, if you're trying to be an entrepreneur, you don't really need to explain that to anybody. You just,
Exactly.
take that with you. That's the cool thing about it. This book kind of like, side note, I used to work as a foreman for a contract company. So I was a contractor, and I gave this book to my boss. I gave him the hard copy that I owned, and he ended up quitting, and now he made $1. He started making $1 a minute, and he took a little idea from this book. It was like search engine optimization. Before that was really a thing. Like, he took something out of this book that I never even expected, and was making $1 a minute. He quit his job. So it's one of those where, I mean, he went from working as my boss for a contract or a construction company, and then, making $1 a minute. He would go to businesses that were kind of doing well, like making $1 million a year, that were maybe on page 1 or 2, and then he'd get them up to the top. And what he'd do is he'd go to them and say, hey, I'll work for you for free, but as soon as you start making this kind of money, then you need to pay me 10%. And they did. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting idea to quit, but it's definitely sounds I think a lot more people put scary on that terms than it is rewarding. Does that make sense?
No, totally. That's great, Jason. Thanks for sharing all that. So a couple quotes that I thought were interesting in this chapter. One was on page 243 in this copy of the book. for everyone. It's in the middle. I'll read it out to you guys. Just because you are embarrassed to admit that you're still living the consequences of a bad decision made 5, 10, or 20 years ago shouldn't stop you from making a good decision now. If you let pride stop you, you will hate life 5, 10, and 20 years from now for the exact same reasons. I hate to be wrong and sat in a dead-end trajectory with my own company until I was forced to change directions or face total breakdown. I know how hard it is. So he ends with, now that we're all on a level playing field, pride is stupid. So again, just saying, just because you made a decision, you don't need to stick with it. If it's not working out for you for one reason or another, do something different. And that's what this is about. And these misconceptions are exactly that, misconceptions. And one last quote I wanted to do is on page 247. I'll read it for you guys. It's near the bottom. He's talking about mistakes, the 2 different kinds of mistakes that people make. The first is a result of a decision to act, to do something. This type of mistake is made with incomplete information, as it's impossible to have all the facts beforehand. These type of mistakes are to be encouraged. Fortune favors the bold. Whereas the second type of mistake is a decision of sloth, to not do something, wherein we refuse to change a bad situation out of fear despite having all the facts. This is how learning experiences become terminal punishments, bad relationships become bad marriages, and poor job choices become lifelong prison sentences. So take action, do something. Don't just, sit and wait for things to get better, because they won't. So I think those were a couple of good quotes I got out of this chapter as well. All right, we're going to go on to the next chapter here, which Tim talks about mini retirements. Mini retirements involve relocating to somewhere for 1 to 6 months. He suggests going abroad to get out of the culture that you're living in with different people, different ideas, but this can be done in the same country you live in as well. But these aren't one-time events. They can be reoccurring. He talks about this is not a sabbatical. A sabbatical is usually like a one-time exception that you do. This is something that can be reoccurring for you. You could do this, hopefully, very often, but it's not just a one and done type thing. It's more of a lifestyle and way of living and planning your life than just doing it once and then going back to the grind. It takes time to free yourself from the materialistic addictions and time famine mindset. 2 or 3 months minimum to free yourself from obsolete routines because we distract ourselves with constant motion. I think this was true when he wrote this over 10 years ago. I think it's even more true now with just the pace of life that people have. With the iPhone, you can work anywhere at any time. So to actually get away from the addiction of being busy and always having your phone on you, so you always feel like you have to do something to be productive. So he recommends it takes 2 or 3 months to actually get free from the mindset that you're always working and doing. And he talks about relocation brings down costs. He compares 1 month in an apartment. It costs as much as 4 days at a decent hotel. He gives lots of good examples about what you can do to save money and really be cheap without losing the quality that you want to have. So he talks more about that in the next couple slides. So how to mini retire. So this is a 14-step process we'll go over quickly. It begins with eliminating, which is a common theme in this book. Eliminate belongings, especially ones that cause stress to maintain. So you can give things away that you don't need to your friends. You can sell things, just declutter your life will make things much better for you. Automate, set up automatic bill payments, cancel paper bills, give a trusted family member power of attorney. That last piece of advice there I think is really wise. He talks about how needing to have something notarized and signed can really be difficult if you're traveling abroad. So to be proactive and do that before you go, if there's something that needs to be done, to give someone a POA on your behalf. Have mail forwarded to someone that can transcribe them into a weekly email. In this book, he talks about a friend can do it, but he recommends a service because they're actually going to follow through, and it's a nominal fee to do that. Scan all of your identification to a USB drive. Adjust cell phone plan or get a new one. He talks about a Nokia phone or BlackBerry. You know, nowadays with an iPhone or an Android, I think it's easier to have your phone work in different countries. So simple thing to do there. Set up a hostel while you find an apartment. I thought this was interesting. He doesn't recommend booking an apartment before you get there. He recommends getting a hostel for 4 or 5 days to talk to people who live there, locals, and then kind of have a home base while you explore the neighborhood and the area and get a feel for it. And then, you know, you can use those 4 or 5 days to look at a couple apartments and then pick out the one that suits you best. Move everything into storage and stay with a friend or family member until you leave. So get all that squared away before you go on your trip. Put your car into storage. Cancel your insurance on your car too. Upon arrival at a mini retirement location, he recommends taking a bike tour and then going around the area that you want to be in and finding the right apartment for you. Get an unlock cell phone. Again, this is a little easier now. You can just use your iPhone. Set up viewings of apartments. He does recommend booking an apartment for the shortest time for 1 month and sleep there. He talked about a time where he did not do this. He booked something, I think, for 6 months, and it ended up being in a very busy intersection with a bus line and a train line. So do it for a month, make sure you like it, and kind of go from there. And step 13, get local health insurance. And again, we talked about this a little bit, but it's affordable. People think it's not, but you can definitely get this and not spend all your money on it. Eliminate anything you brought with you and you don't need. He recommends not bringing very much, but after a week or two, you'll really see, you know, what it is that is necessary and what's not. So after, you know, maybe 2 weeks with all your belongings, hey, I don't need this, I don't need that, and start giving things away. Or mail it back home if you want to do it that way. Has anyone ever done a mini retirement before? Has anyone ever like done anything like this in their actual real life?
Yeah, I have.
That's cool. What'd you do, Jason? Where'd you go?
Well, I didn't really, actually, I just kind of like totally just staycation, but I just didn't do anything for 6 months. And I totally took like a recourse. I didn't really know what to do. I wanted to get out of the pharmacy. I went into the insurance industry. At least I got my insurance license. I didn't ever use it, but I did that, and I did help one of my friends that has his like a legit insurance business do his thing. But I like fully enjoyed it. It's one of those things where I'm actually kind of like thinking about doing it again here, but like actually traveling around. But yeah, it was cleansing. You know what I mean? It was like, oh shit, like all this stuff I thought I couldn't do, I really can do. And couch surfing is really not that bad. I think more people are envious of that than you would believe, you know, but being able to pack all your shit up in one vehicle and go on to the next, like people are just like, that's possible. So yeah, I mean, it was, I mean, I did have to have like some funds saved up to do that, but I definitely learned a lot. And it was one of those things that you were saying, you can easily slip into just drinking beer all day, being lazy as hell. But if, you know, after a while that gets pretty boring too, you know, so you got to kind of have some sort of a goal. So I would think before you get into that mini retirement, like ultimately have a goal of what your plans are, after that, and not necessarily just get stuck in that little routine, because retirements are different, different for everybody. So
I agree. And it's funny you say that, because that's kind of the last chapter talks about filling the void. So not being in a rut where you've got nothing to do, to have goals and motivations and things that you do. But that's cool that you've done it. I guess I've kind of done things like it. I've never traveled abroad and done it. But over the last year, I quit my job and got my real estate license and kind of learned as much as I could, and got away from the 9-to-5. And I think back to, where I was a year ago or 5 years ago. I'm so much better off in so many ways. So that's cool that you did it, Jason. Anybody else ever do this, or thinking about actually doing a mini retirement?
So back in 2008 with the recession, we were really affected by it, because all I really was doing was retail sales. So I lost pretty much my entire pipeline of buyers at that point, due to all the closures, financial institutions closing. So it was a good 2 years of struggle of trying to kind of find myself again and figure out what was the next step. Was I going to go and get employed by someone else? I tried really hard to make it work. And I just picked up and sold the house, pretty much sold all my belongings, and I went to South America. I don't even have family there. My family's from Mexico. So I went to Ecuador, and there were several opportunities there. And it was surreal, because, I felt kind of guilty, because it felt like I was on vacation, because it's just so beautiful there. But it worked out. And after it was about a year of being abroad, came back and started over. And I think that sometimes and I'm considering doing that again soon, just because, just everything's just so different now, and I can actually work while I'm out abroad. Not like before, where you had to be, here or local in your office or local in your city. But anyhow, it was a great experience. I learned a lot. And I came back with a fresh mindset, and with true goals and aspirations. As to if I would have stayed behind, I think I would have probably gone back to work for somebody else.
That's great. That's great. Are you a real estate investor, Elizabeth? Is that what you do?
I am. Yes, I am a licensed agent in Texas, and I also invest.
Okay, perfect. And we'll talk later, but I think you said you had a deal in Ohio that you had a question for me about.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
We're still working it though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's chat after about that too, if I can help out with
Perfect.
that.
Sure.
Perfect. Well, that's good that you guys have had some experience with this, and just the way that it kind of breaks it down and makes it really easy to follow his process, 14-step process to do it. It's really interesting and really cool. All right, so let's talk about chapter.
So 5 people in here do real estate, right?
Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
I think everybody in here does real estate.
I think that it sounds really, really boss. That's awesome.
Yeah. All right, and chapter 15 is entitled Filling the Void. I'll read the quotes here. I think, go back. People say that we are seeking is a meaning for life. I don't think this is what we're really seeking. I think that we're seeking an experience of being alive. So if you have money and time, as much as you need of both of it, you start to go a little bit crazy. We need things to do, meaning and purpose. So again, kind of what Jason just talked about a few minutes ago, if you just sit around and drink beer all day, it's not going to be fun or satisfying. It's going to get old after a week. So to kind of have a plan of what you're doing and kind of the why, like why you're doing it. Like, hey, I'm not doing the 9-to-5 grind anymore. I've escaped the rat race. What am I going to do that's meaningful and significant for me? So he's got a couple rules. The first rule is don't think too much. If you can't define it or act upon it, forget about it. A couple things that Tim does is he learns. He learns a language. That's what he recommends doing to start. If you remember earlier in this book, he had some different experiences doing, was it jiu-jitsu or some type of martial art that he picked up traveling. He picked up like tango dancing in South America. So he really gets immersed in what he's doing, and he finds that to be the best way to do it, and to pick up a language as well. If that's something that you guys want to do, I'm kind of like Kris. I remember him talking a couple weeks ago about trying to learn Spanish. I tried to learn Spanish for years. I dated a Peruvian, and I still just could not pick it up. So that wouldn't be for me. But definitely like learning something and being immersed with a group of people that are doing anything, whether it be learning a language or just any type of skill is important to do, to keep your mind active, to keep physically active, to keep yourself going. Another thing he talks about in this chapter is service, doing something that improves a life or that of your own. He talks about, having whatever purpose anyway. It could be saving the whales. It could be, raising money for children abroad. Whatever it is, there's no wrong answer. As long as you're doing something that's good, I mean, it's all good for anyone to do that. It doesn't. You can pick out what's really important to you. You can't, pretend, hey, I really care about X, Y, Z if you don't. So you kind of have to look inside yourself and say, hey, what do I really care about? What's really important to me? And kind of go from that. With this, I had a couple good quotes or a couple things I wanted to talk about. One is on page 289 in my book. There was a quote I wanted to go over with you guys. This is about being bored. So it is in bold, but this is what I always wanted. How can I be bored? So I'll read this little part here. Don't freak out if you're bored. This is normal among all high performers who downshift after working hard for a long time. The smarter and more goal-oriented you are, the tougher these growing pains will be. Learning to replace the perception of time famine with appreciation of time abundance is like going from triple espresso to decaf. So, I mean, if you're wired to always be active, to, focus on your business, wake up 5 a.m., do it till 10 p.m., suddenly you're doing nothing, it's going to be a mental hurdle for anyone. So it's normal. Don't freak out. It's something that you're going to have to overcome, which is, I think, part of why he recommends doing things for 2 or 3 months or more. You can't get away for 2 weeks and call it a mini retirement. It really takes time to calm your mind down and to separate from the life you were living for X many years. So I thought that was interesting. And then on page 290, he talks about some self-doubts that you may have when you're working, 70 hours a week, and then suddenly you're working 0 or 4, whatever you're doing. You start kind of questioning your life and yourself and who you are. So there's 6 of them. Basically, it's just asking, like, who am I and why am I doing this? So one is, am I really doing this to be more free and lead a better life, or am I lazy? Did I quit the rat race because it's bad or because I couldn't hack it? Is this as good as it gets? Am I really a success, or am I kidding myself? Have I just lowered my standards? Why am I not happy? So just questions you're going to have when you have time to think about things like this and nothing to fill your day. You're probably going to have this going through your mind. So something I do, which I know probably a lot of you do, is I have a journal that I write in daily to kind of like figure out my thoughts for myself. So I don't think he mentioned it in this chapter, but I would think that he would recommend journaling anytime, but especially if you're going to go from, 60 to 0 to kind of turn things off while your mind's still running really quickly to figure all this stuff out. Because if you don't, it's going to be on your mind for as long as you're on your mini retirement. So I thought that was interesting. And then there was one last quote that I thought was really good. This is from Viktor Frankl. It's on page 293. It's actually a really good book. I read this back in college. One of the only good books I read in college, but this book is called Man's Search for Meaning. So this quote is, "What man actually needs is not a tensionless state, but rather the striving and struggling for a worthwhile goal, a freely chosen task." So it's not like you're gonna, sit on the beach and, drink Mai Tai all day and be happy. Maybe you will for a week or two, but you need to have a purpose. You need to have something that you're working on, something that you chose, that is important to you, your why, your reason for doing things, for getting up in the morning and for working. I mean, you're made to solve problems and to think and to act and to do. So you need to do that. Even if you're doing a mini retirement, you still need to have a purpose and something that you about, something that you do. So I thought this quote was really, really good. Anybody have any thoughts about chapter 15, about filling the void?
Kelly said, sorry.
Oh, go on.
Kelly says in the chat box to read in Spanish.
Read in Spanish?
Yeah.
Perfect. Anybody else have anything they want to share with this, with any goals, any learning they want to do, any special, type of service that you'd like to do, or raising money for XYZ?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess this is like a really cool service. I mean, honestly, like I didn't have anything going on at, 10 a.m. for a book club. So this is really cool. And then the other thing too is that, I don't know if anybody's read any other books by Tim Ferriss, but they're great. Like The 4-Hour Body, 4-Hour Chef. It kind of talks about accelerating your learning curve. But I feel like I really give a lot of service to people. I pretty much would give my back or my shirt off my back for people, and don't really look anything for return. And sometimes it's not necessarily that I'm not looking for something in return, but looking to see that blossom and grow. And then also, being a part of it when it does become what it is, and empowering other people. So that is really kind of sometimes even better than getting paid. You know what I mean? So that is definitely something that we're just joining something like this is definitely good. Like I mean, I've read a lot of books and never joined a book club. In fact, I mean, I would beg my friends to read a book, you know what I mean? And then having them join a book club wouldn't seem ridiculous because they wouldn't even read a book I would give them. And I've read over 200 in a year, So I think that, all kinds of different types of services that you would think, even with this like silly little taco review thing that I was doing with my brother, has blossomed into leading to me to be on a podcast, leading to me having people hit me up all over the country to go do, taco reviews for them, whether they're a catering business or a food truck or anything like that. And I think we even connected on social media or Instagram, which is kind of a new venture for me, but it really can go in all kinds of different directions. Services can be like, you just putting out there in the world. So I think it's kind of sum that up a little bit in my thoughts is that you can do a lot with service, whether it's not necessarily a big, give, but it still is something that will provide a lot of benefit for a lot of people.
Totally. And obviously you care about tacos, and it probably shows in your blog. And you know, I think the only way to really like be successful is to help other people be successful. So if you help someone achieve their goals and their dreams, by default, you're gonna become wealthy or rich, or, you know, achieve your goals and dreams. So it's just kind of how it works, to be a servant to help others, and in turn you're gonna win too. So totally agree.
Yeah, and to kind of you know, piggyback off that is not necessarily just tacos, but for example, coffee. Like I have, you know, a friend that does little he roasts and ages coffee beans, and then there was one of my friends owns a coffee shop in Philadelphia. She flew back here. She was still working for the company that runs out of Arizona, and we met up, and I was telling her, I gave her some of the coffee, and it was one of those where this business has been running for 27 years. They obviously know what they're doing, but they had no social media presence at all. And I was like, look, I mean, I have a better social media presence than you do, and I don't even own a business as far as tacos or pizza. I just, you know, post stuff to try to get free tacos and pizza. So I like met up with that, you know, business owner to go over, you know, kind of their social stuff. And obviously I'm not going to tell them what to do. They obviously know what they're doing, but to add benefit to them. And it was one of those things where it was like, you know, meeting up with them, no intention to make a deal, no intention to, you know, land a deal or really make money off of it. But it was technically a service, in my opinion. And I think it benefited all parties, you know, so it goes a lot deeper than that, but absolutely.
Totally. That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, we're going to move on to the last chapter, 16, where Tim talks about the new rich mistakes. There are 13 of these, and we'll talk about these briefly. The first one is working for work's sake. I think he talks about this 10 times in this book. It's something that, you know, we obviously don't want to fall into that trap of just being busy and working just to work. There's got to be a purpose behind what you're doing. So you don't want to fall back into that trap, and it's easy to. So even if you read this book and, you know, a month from now, you may find yourself working for work's sake again. So being accountable to yourself, like, hey, what am I doing? Is this really what I want to be doing? Just keeping that on top of mind all the time. Another common mistake would be micromanaging and emailing to fill time. Again, this reverts back to what Tim talked about in the first, you know, couple chapters, is, you know, making email a tool that you use, not that it runs your day and your life. Batching your emails, so you're not checking every 5 minutes. You're checking maybe once every couple days, or once every day, or he's doing it once a week. After a while, just to feel like you're busy, you're checking your email or sending emails. So just doing that is a waste of your time. So don't fall back into that trap. 3 is handling problems others can handle. If it can be handled by a virtual assistant, by all means, let them do it. If it can be handled by one of your colleagues or not handled at all, then don't worry about it. Don't waste your time doing things that aren't really going to benefit you or anyone. Just, you know when things are a time suck, and know when things are beneficial and important. 4, helping outsourcers or coworkers with the same problem more than once. So if you're repeatedly doing the same solve for a problem over and over again, build a system. Hey, if this happens, then do this. You don't need to call me or email me. If this is something that happens over and over again, just make a system to solve that problem and be done with it. 5 is chasing customers when you have enough. So he fires his customers earlier in the book, focuses on the 20% that are making 80% of his revenue, and it saves him a lot of time and headache and makes his life that much better. Answering email that will not result in a sale, that can be answered in a frequently asked question or autoresponder. So again, just tying back to a couple of themes that we've seen already in the first 5, just, you know, automating things, making it easy, not wasting your time on common problems that happen over and over again. 7 is working where you live, sleep, or should relax. He recommends having separate spaces for separate things. I think it's tougher right now in the day and age that we're in, with, you know, quarantining and working from home to do this. But if you can have, you know, this is my office, this is where I work, this is where I hang out with my family. If you can do that in your home, it definitely is a good thing. But kind of separating things so you're not always working, and it's better for your mind and your family and everyone else as well. 8, not constantly performing 80-20 analysis. He recommends doing this bi-weekly, just to make sure that you're not falling into the same trap and chasing customers and clients that are not helping to make you money and grow your business. Striving for endless perfection rather than great or simply good enough. There's actually a good quote in here that I wanted to go over with you guys. That is on page 303, number 9. So this was a pretty good analogy, I thought. I'll just read this whole paragraph. Striving for endless perfection rather than great or simply good enough, whether in your personal or professional life. Recognize that is often just another work for work excuse. Most endeavors are like learning to speak a foreign language. To be correct 95% of the time requires 6 months of concentrated effort, whereas to be correct 98% of the time requires 20 to 30 years. So just focusing on being and something's good enough. Like, you don't want to spend 20 or 30 years to become an expert. If you do, then you do, if it's something that you really care about. But if you want to be able to have a conversation, you can, you know, learn 95% of the words in a couple months. For me, that would be good. If it's something that you're passionate about, like you wanted to be able to read in Spanish, like was one of someone's goals, that's different. But I think this is a great way to kind of look at things. And we have a couple more. 10 through 13. 10 would be blowing minutia and small problems out of proportion as an excuse to work. You know, blowing up over a minor detail when you could, you know, pass it on to a virtual assistant or not make it such a big deal. It's a common thing that people do, especially if you don't have much to do. I'm sure you all know people that kind of make drama out of nothing. There's, you know, something that's a little bit off and they make it seem like it's the biggest problem ever. I think if you have a lot of time, you can do that. So not falling into that trap. Making non-time sensitive issues urgent to justify work. Again, this goes back to email or anything else. Hey, I don't need to reply right away. I don't need to answer this voicemail. You know, this deal isn't closing for 40 days. They don't need to worry about putting their middle initial on their title. It doesn't matter. Like, I'll get back to you, but I don't need to call you right now. Viewing one product, job, or project as the end all and be all of your existence. Something we talked about a lot. You know, if it doesn't work out, you'll do something else. If you quit a job, you'll find another job. You know, there's always an opportunity, especially if you're creative and you work hard and you work smart, you're always going to have problems that you can solve for people. And 13, ignoring the social rewards of life. So keeping that in mind as well, that you don't want to fall into that mistake of just ignoring, you know, the social life as well. So those are the 13 mistakes that Tim wanted to talk about. Does anyone have any thoughts about those or anything else they would add to that list maybe? Yeah, go ahead. All right, so this is the last slide we're going to go over today. So I thought this book was excellent. I enjoyed reading. I feel like reading it again was different than reading it the other times I have, just where I am in life and in my business. I learned a lot from it. I thought it was fantastic. Does anyone have any final thoughts about the book that they wanted to share? Any changes that it's going to make in your life or your business?
Hey, Pat, it's Kelly. I wanted to chime in here and say thank you. This has been, I think this book finally was like the aha moment. Even though it's over 10 years old, it definitely applies to what's going on today and more so. And it's all the books that we've been reading too, Kris. It's like, it's all kind of coming together, with delegation and now, getting a VA and with traction. This is kind of like the little icing on the cake here. So thank you guys so much.
Yeah,
Totally.
this is a great book. I mean, honestly, out of all the books I've read, I always recommend this one, and I think that's why I got invited to this book group. But like I said earlier, I'm like, I literally went and bought this book for somebody, and the lady in front of me was buying 2 copies and asked me to have an interview with her. So it's one of those, like, that's how powerful this book is. But it is definitely something that, and the thing is like, he tells you how to read the book. Like, it's not something that you need to read front to back, but all of his books are great. To be honest with you, all the books that I've read from Ferris are amazing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anyone else have anything to add?
Thanks for taking over, Pat. Really appreciate
Great
it.
job, man.
Yeah, thank you. It was good,
job.
out of my comfort zone to do this, and it made me read the book twice as well as I would have otherwise. So it was awesome. So this is my
out, man. Great job.
Oh, thank you. So this is my information. If you guys you wanted to chat or connect, you can find me on Instagram. That's my website. This is Kris's information. If you want to follow Kris on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, and we will see you guys next week. And a couple other things I want to go over at the end here. Other programs that we offer. There's a mastermind group. There's an email for that. The book club, we're here doing that. And then after reading this book, hopefully some of us are going to get some VAs, and Kris can help out with that. That is his email to get hooked up with that. And then lastly, I had a book giveaway. Let's see if I can figure out how to do that. Mia, can you send that to me again, please?
Yeah, okay. I sent it on the chat box.
Okay. For some reason, I can't find the chat box. Q&A.
So the next book is going to be The Road Less Stupid, and next week we will have the intro to it, and so everybody has time to get their books, and we'll be starting that 2 weeks from today.
Perfect. Perfect.
Thanks, Kris.
Has anybody read that book yet?
Not me.
What book?
It's called The Road Less Stupid.
No.
Okay, I'm in the middle of it now, and I've heard a lot of people say good things about it, so that's the one we're going to roll with.
Okay, perfect. So we'll do that, and then let me do this. We are going to pick out a winner of the book. So let me just get this back on full screen and share. Okay, perfect. All right, can you guys see that?
Nope.
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay, share. Okay, you should see now.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, cool. So we will see who's going to win the book. All right, looks like Elizabeth is the winner. Congratulations, Elizabeth. Look at that.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Bummer. I was like waiting for Jason. Bummer.
All right, Elizabeth, you are the winner. If you want to get in touch with Kris or Mia, they will hook you up with that. And again, thanks everyone. This was a great book, great couple of weeks. I look forward to reading the next one with everyone, and seeing you next Friday.
Thanks, Pat.
All right, thanks guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.